All right, welcome. I am Laina Orlando, and today we are going to be focusing on a continuation of what we talked about last week, but it's going to be a little different today. I have woken up with this excitement. I just am feeling the level of drive that I felt when I opened up the Center for Awareness in Atlanta back in 2007. I was a realtor living my life in East Cobb. I had done all the things. I checked all the boxes. I was, a successful realtor. I was somebody who um, was well known in the community because I was a volunteer to so many things. I was so involved with my kids' schools. And at one point, I had kids in three schools in East Cobb, elementary school, middle school, high school. Everybody knew me. I was in the PTA, I was involved in the HOA. I used to organize several fundraisers in East Cobb. I was on the tennis team. And, I was one of those people that a lot of people knew. So, super, super involved. And then I got this call to open up a center for awareness. I was told exactly what it was going to be about. I was told that I was going to leave my career. Actually, I wasn't told I had to leave my real estate career. I was told where I was headed. And I felt this guidance, and I knew I had to listen. I knew I cannot go against that voice. In 2007, I was 5 years into my spiritual journey. Up until that point, because that journey started in 2002, up until that point, I had been primarily studying teachings and reading a ton of books. I think by then I had read like 200 books, and it was all about understanding the power of our mind, understanding how creative we are, reading about God in totally different ways than what I had grown up with as a Catholic girl. And then I didn't really practice Catholicism as an adult. I went to non-denominational churches in the East Cobb area, Roswell, that general area that I lived in the northern suburbs of Atlanta. And I went on a deep dive to understand that everything that I have been taught in the religious arena is all made up. Now, it is a lot of it is influenced by people who had experiences with God or Jesus, as I have had. So I want to give everyone who shared their personal experience credit because they were speaking about what they were doing. But God did not write the Bible. God's not a person. God doesn't have hands and doesn't write. For God to give us messages, it has to come through a conduit. And a lot of what I was studying was about how we had been indoctrinated into believe that the church has power over our spiritual experience, our spiritual growth, that we have to go through them. They're the middleman for us to get to God. And all of this was created with the Catholic Church in the year 325, I believe it was, after Jesus's death. Basically, the Roman Emperor Constantine called all of these bishops together to form the Catholic Church, which translates to universal church. So the emperor wanted to have one religion that everybody had to follow, and if you didn't follow that religion, then they had the ability to basically put you to death. And there's a whole lot of information around that, so feel free to research that if that interests you. But that process was a necessary process for me to begin to shift my allegiance. Oh, this is touching me deeply. To shift my allegiance from God out there to God in here. I was discovering that anything that humans have made up is always going to lead us away from where God is, well, the only place God can be found, which is inside. And to be able to be clear about what we are, who we are, the purpose of our existence, we have to come to know God. And if there is a middleman telling you things that are not true or pointing you in the direction that is basically sending you to look for God in all the wrong places where God is not, you are going to go on a long journey of being lost. There's just no way around it. So until you make the decision to come inside and come to know where God is, that is the only way you're going to come to know God because you're going to feel it. You can't feel God on a cloud. You can feel your fear of God on a cloud, and you can feel your excitement to one day meet God on a cloud. Like when you die in you're one of the lucky few that don't think that you're going to die in hell, as I did, or die and go to hell because grow up thinking you're a sinner, that's where you're going to go. That was the terror that sent me on my spiritual journey, was this fear of ending up in hell. So I went on a quest and I was guided book by book by book to dismantle the beliefs that I had created that God was outside of me. That was necessary in my journey to get me to the place that I would then begin to trust the voice that was talking to me. I didn't want to be listening to voices telling me stuff because then what I thought, if I was listening to voices, is that I was crazy. I had crazy relatives growing up, and they were listening to voices, and some of them got institutionalized. I didn't want to go down that path, so the last thing I wanted to do was, what? Voices are talking to me. I remember sharing that with a few of my friends back then, which were all part of the church. We were all connected in some way with an understanding that we were all Christians. And I started sharing this with a few. Jesus is talking to me. And she was like, what do you mean Jesus is talking to you? Like, Jesus isn't talking to me. Why is he talking to you? Instead of getting excited and celebrating that I was having this connection, I was basically put in my place. Who do you think you are? Why? Because the church says you have to have these levels, and only the ones who are up here or who are a saint or who the church has appointed or elected or selected, they can talk to Jesus, but not you. And I took that and went, oh my gosh, we really have been brainwashed to the point that I had to realize that when my sweet little daughter was, I think she was about 2.5 years old, she had an imaginary friend named Lucy. This touches me. And Lucy would tell her these things. Sometimes Lucy would say these funny things. And I remember telling my sweet little daughter, Lauren, there is no such thing as Lucy. Let's not pretend that there is a voice talking to you. And she was connecting to this source that was giving her this information that if I would have had the consciousness to take it down, write it down for her, I would have had so much beautiful message, so many beautiful messages to share with her as she got older. But instead, I squashed it. I squashed it for her because I grew up, who do you think you are, hearing voices? Or if you're hearing voices, you're crazy. And then my friend did the same thing to me. No, you're not listening. You're not hearing anything. And I felt that crushing sensation that I'm sure my daughter felt. So it was a gift because then I was able to forgive myself for doing that to Lauren because it's what I got indoctrinated with. I didn't want her to be in an insane asylum. I didn't want her to be crazy. I didn't want anybody to think she was crazy because I didn't know that that is a sign of sanity. You are sane when you're being guided by a voice that is giving you information on how to be in this world but not of it, how to be loving and kind and be a part of what this creation is all about according to God. So, when I was told to open up that center, I had already been listening to the voice of Jesus for a couple of years. I was already being guided. I had already been given months earlier the power of awareness workshop to teach. I'd already started teaching that at the real estate office that I worked at. We had a big conference room. And on once a month, I would do my class, and I'd have 7, 8 people show up, and some of them were realtors. Actually, most of them were realtors, and I was just teaching them what I was learning about questioning the thoughts in your mind, about being aware that you don't have to believe anything that you think is true. You don't have to believe anything that you think is not true. You can literally question your own thoughts, but that's not something that we are taught to do. just as we're taught to not question authority. And that's a whole nother topic. And you'll see why today's going to be slightly different, because I was guided that we need to read quite a few segments today inside of the section that we're in, paragraphs. We're going to read quite a few of them in a row because they all tie together. But when I was guided to open up the Center for Awareness, I just followed that guidance. And not too long ago, I was guided to open up the Awareness Academy. And the whole point of the Awareness Academy is to have a centralized place that is virtual. So there are no borders, no boundaries. Anybody can join from anywhere in the world. But my work specifically right now is to help humanity remember the truth of who they are. There is no way to remember your truth while you are blocked by the lies. The lies is what the ego is all about. So I was sitting the other night thinking, oh my goodness, I had this feeling like I did when I told my friend, Jesus is talking to me. When I had this knowingness, well, you're going to teach people about the ego. And I was like, holy shit, I got to teach about the ego. People don't get the ego. They want to talk about the ego. That's the least sexy thing about spirituality. Everybody wants to be a teacher of Om and transcendence and meditation and crystals and opening up your chakras and feeling the love and all of those beautiful, wonderful things. And they're all necessary. But you cannot come to know God while your ego is blocking you from that relationship, because it blocks you from the awareness of the truth of who you are. So it's in those of you who were in the class last night, that's what we focused on. The introduction into the Course in Miracles is about recognizing that we cannot be taught what God really is, because God is love. We cannot be taught that. Nobody can teach us that. However, we can be shown the obstacles that we have created to the voice for God. We can be shown, we can be pointed to. I've had so many teachers over the years who have been so wonderful in helping me gain greater understanding about what God is, about how the mind works, absolutely, but not until I was guided to really dive into the Course in Miracles. And I'll tell you, most people stay on the surface of the Course in Miracles. They love the idea that I create my own reality and nothing is real, and I'm eternal, and this is all an illusion and it cannot do anything to me. All of those comments are wonderful and valid. However, what they do is they spiritualize the ego. They keep the ego at a level of, I know the truth and this is right, and all of this is an illusion, and I'm not going to get involved with the war. I'm not going to get involved with this. I'm not going to get involved with that, because it's all made up. Now, there is merit to that. I had to go through the stages where I was denying anything outside of me had power. And that was done at the head level. None of those things are real, to the point that in some instances, it made me appear insensitive. If I shared with anybody some of the things that I just didn't believe in, that they were not real, I appeared insensitive. And in some ways, sorry about that, I thought I had turned everything off. In some ways, I was literally being insensitive, because basically what I was saying is, what you're thinking about, what you're believing is not accurate. Well, if you are not trained into not taking things personally, then you're going to get offended by somebody not validating whatever it is that you're experiencing. And I had to go through the process. I've been at this for almost 25 years. So it's a process. Moving up the spiral doesn't happen from here to there. You may have some moments of transcendence. You may use plant medicine and boom, you're there. But you drop down, you will go back down, and you will take steps, and one step at a time, and you'll take two steps forward, and you're going to take one step back. Sometimes on your journey, you'll take one step back and you're going to take three backwards, because this is a process of looking at everything that you believe so that you understand why we collectively have made a mess out of this planet. not as in there's a judgment that we did anything wrong, but it's a mess because it's a world of suffering. We, as the creative children of God, have made a mess out of this world. We can't create a mess out of this world because God created this world. God created this earth. God created that which is going to outlast us. Our human selves, which are part of, which is how we, the ego is necessary to create this experience that I'm a separate human from everybody else, has to have its place, but it operates in the low frequencies because it's all about self-protection. It's all about me. I got to take care of me. Telling my daughter that she wasn't listening to voices was not about her. I wasn't helping her. I was taking care of me. I don't want to be the mother of a crazy child. And my friend telling me that I wasn't, how could I be listening to Jesus? She wasn't honoring me. She was protecting herself. Well, why is Lina listening? That can be true. I'm going to squash it for Lina because I haven't been contacted by Jesus, which, if you're on this journey for a while, we're always being contacted. Are we listening is the question. And you cannot not be contacted because where is this voice coming from? It's coming from within. It's inside of us. This knowingness is inside of us. So I have been super excited, like I was all those years ago, to create the academy. And the academy is a place where all of the knowledge that I have, I'm going to pour it in there. So it's going to be one central location where people can have access to what I teach, to what I share, plus the conversations in the community. It's we're going to have a feed like you do, a news feed like we do in Facebook or X, Twitter or whatever, where we can share this information, but it is designed for those who want to elevate their consciousness. When you participate in this, even if it's the free membership, the curiosity phase, and that just means that you're curious about what we're doing in there, and there's no charge for that, but you're still going to have access to some of the courses, some of the things that I have done because it is my purpose to help simplify what the ego is all about. And to make it simple or for that to happen, it works best in community when other people can reflect back to you what is ego talking and what is your soul, your higher self, God, Jesus, whatever you want to call it, the truth of you speaking. And in a community where there are people committed to being the expression of God as we were created to live from what is our true inheritance. You are magnificent. Every one of us is magnificent. We are holy. We are perfect. We are innocent. Yes, even the people who have done bad things, but they can only do those bad things because they have made a separate identity for themselves. That is not what the identity God gave them. Meaning we put on a mask. We pretend to be what we're not. When I was telling my sweet little girl that she wasn't listening to the voice of Lucy, I was pretending to be a scared mother that needs to protect my identity. I wasn't being the truth of who I am, because if I was being the truth of who I am, I would have been seeing the truth of who she is. So we have to remove the lies, the beliefs that we hold. We have to take off the masks and begin to show up as who we really are, claim our holiness, claim our divinity. And that is best done in a safe place. Otherwise, if you do that on Facebook, people may call the loony bin and have you taken out, in a straitjacket. So thankfully, we don't do too much of that nowadays. And on Facebook, you can see a lot of weird things, and pretty much nobody gets put in the crazy house for that. However, to be able to foster a safe place, a sacred space, we all have to come in with that kind of commitment that we are there to train our minds to think with God, to see things the way God sees them, and be willing to look at our ego, be willing to be held in a space that is loving and compassionate while we feel safe to say, oh my gosh, my ego just did this. I totally completely lied or cheated or hurt somebody because I was listening to the voice of the ego. I hurt myself because I was listening to the voice of the ego, and we support each other in working through that. The reason we must do that is because we are the light of the world. And right now, we are entering well, we have been in a very turbulent time. We are in the process of shifting. There are so many millions, billions of people in humanity who do not want the old way things have been. They may not understand about the ego. They may not understand fully that God is inside of them, but they intuitively know that it is time to change things. And I'm going to say that I believe that every single person who has that knowingness that it is time for things to change deliberately incarnated to be the light of the world, to bring that light, to shine it in their families first, in their communities, in their countries, and on the planet, and to be able to expand that light so that all can see the truth of who we are. We have got to accept who we truly are. And until you accept who you are with humility, meaning we have to drop the arrogance. We have to drop that spiritualized ego. I know better than you because I'm a spiritual teacher, or I've read 3 spiritual books, or I went to 4 spiritual workshops. We've got to drop that arrogance. And I know it in others because I know it in me. And we need to move beyond the ignorance of operating with limited information about who we are that blocks the true acceptance of who we are as God created us. We are here to inherit the kingdom. It is our birthright that we live in a happy dream, that we live in a world where love and compassion are normal, where truth telling is expected, where collaboration, cooperation, and co-creation is what everybody does. Well, to get to that kind of a world, the old one has to collapse. The lying, the cheating, the greed, the I'm better than you, the I'm the church and I know what you should be doing. All of that is crumbling. It has to crumble. And it's crumbling because so many people are pulling their energy from it. As you no longer believe those systems, they have to crumble. Have you ever played Jenga? If you pull those little pieces, the structure is going to crumble. Well, those little pieces are being pulled. We're moving to a higher frequency. We're having conversations that are uplifting. We're telling people what is good and holy with them instead of pointing at, oh, you shouldn't be talking to Jesus. Somebody comes and tells me they're talking to Jesus, I'm going to be going, oh my God, what is Jesus telling you? Let me tell you what Jesus is telling me. How exciting is that? That's why there are so many channelers right now. So many people are receiving messages, not just spirit in the spiritual realm. I'm seeing this in Christians and atheists who are going, "Oh my God, I had a near-death experience. I never believed in God. Now I know God is real." Well, all those people are pulling their Jenga pieces. They're not supporting the old. The old is so full of holes, it is going to fall. That collapsing is not going to be pretty. If you don't ground yourself, if you don't build your house on solid ground, on a foundation of truth, knowing who you are with humbleness, knowing that you are a child of God without arrogance, knowing that you're powerful beyond measure with total and complete, with a servant heart, you're going to be part of the old because the ego is going to use that against you. It's going to, and those who don't want um, people to pull their toys and go home and take their Jenga pieces and start building something new, they're going to do whatever they can to tell you that you're not good enough, that who do you think you are? If you don't have a solid knowing about who you are, you're going to be easily swayed into fear-based things. That is coming in every sector because every sector has been tainted by egoic beliefs that have blocked God from the school system, from the medical system, from the obviously the religious system. Yes, God is in there in many places, but not in a way that is so accessible to most of us. I mean, when you look at some of the countries that treat women as poorly as they treat animals, and that men think that they're better than. There is no equality there. None of that is of God. Even if they have a big banner that promotes their version of God. When we come to know the truth of who we are, we cannot treat anybody as less than or better than who we are. That's why we have to drop the ignorance and start thinking you're better than somebody else, and that there are those who are lesser. And you got to drop the arrogance to think that because you're a man, or because you're this, or because you have money, you're better than anybody else. Those Diddy trials that are happening, they're exposing the abuse of power that has been taking place in the entertainment industry, filled with egoic darkness. And those things have to be exposed, because when you think that you're better than, you're making a world of suffering. You're adding to the world of suffering. But when you know that you're the creator of your reality, and you understand that your mind is powerful, your thought system is powerful, you cannot participate in something that hurts others, because you're hurting yourself if you're thinking thoughts that are not true. So the Awareness Academy, and I'm going to invite everybody to join. Again, you can join for free. So it's not about everything is paid, but if you want access to more of my classes, well, those will be paid, because this is how I make my income to live in the 3D world, where I have to pay for rent, where I have to pay for things. And that is perfectly okay, because we live in a world where money is still a big part of it. The happy dream that we're co-creating, it may be 50 years away, maybe 100 years away, maybe a couple generations before we don't need money. And if you go, oh, what do you mean we don't need money? It's coming. When you operate from the truth of who you are and you're the creator of your reality, you don't need to go work to make money. Your thoughts create your reality. And if you need something, you create it. You don't have to buy it. But to get to the place where a mind is being used to do those things for the greater good, we got to go on a journey. We got to unwind our mind from all the bullshit and the BS, the belief systems that we have been indoctrinated with. So to get to the Awareness Academy, and I'm going to put this on my YouTube link. I'm going to put it everywhere so it's easy to find. But it's basically theawarenessacademy.com/membership. That's how you can join. And until the end of March, or not March, May, until May 31st, you'll get 50% off, and be a founding member, meaning for the rest of your life, you can have it at 50% off. A wonderful deal, because for $22 a month, you can come and listen to a lot of my Course in Miracles classes, to dive into these teachings, to look at things that are going to help you in learning about projections. If you want to go in the mastery path, I'm going to have a lot more classes. That's only $111 a month. That's going to include group coaching. It's going to include so many things. We're going to watch movies and understand the spiritual component of them. So we're going to have viewings. I'm going to have guest teachers that are going to come and share what they know. So there's going to be so much happening in there. You won't see me in too many other social medias, because I am being guided, and I can feel it to create this community, because in here we are going to activate a frequency that is going to be so powerful, because we're going to stand on the truth of who we are. We're going to accept our inheritance. We're finally going to stop blocking God. We're going to stop blocking love. We're going to stop blocking goodness. And what happens when that begins to boil and activate? It's going to expand. It's going to extend. We're going to become the light of the world, sharing it, and be pillars. As my sweet Susie here calls me, Lady Lighthouse. You're going to be a lighthouse. You're going to be grounded in a truth that is going to help so many people that are going to be caught in a lot of discomfort, because as the old systems break down, as they can't count on what they were expecting before, and they don't have another place to go, they're going to rely on you, because you're going to be steady, you're going to be peaceful, you're going to be, at the very least, clear that what is happening is necessary, because you know that you cannot build something new on an old structure. Anybody who's ever bought an old house and they wanted to build a new house, not renovate. We've been renovating, and the renovation, we still doesn't get rid of the skeletons in the cellar. We are going to break down the old, because we're building something brand spanking new, and it cannot be built on top of the old. The old must crumble. So let's get into A Course in Miracles, chapter 3. The innocent perception is the name of this chapter, because you must understand what is happening here. You've got to get so clear about our innocent perception is our natural way of looking. That's just who we are. That's our inheritance. That's how God created us. Innocent, period. But we have shifted our perceptions because we have learned other ways of thinking, other ways of perceiving, and that has blocked us from knowing the truth of who we are. So we have already gone through section 6, which was judgment and the authority problem. We have one problem. The course is really clear. And when you start living these truths, you go, yeah, there's only one problem, is that you don't know who the true authority is. And the authority is the author of you. It's who created you. Because we think mom and dad created us, they had sex and boom, here I am. Or the stork dropped me, on my head. And that's how I got here. We are not anything other than the creation of God. And when we get that, then the question is, well, then how did God create me? Why did God create me? What's the purpose that God gave me? And you study A Course in Miracles and you'll understand that. Why did God create you? Because God wanted a son, a daughter. Course in Miracles calls it son, but it's a child. It wanted another to enjoy the experience of the reflection of itself. It wanted another to extend that love that it has. What's the point of being the source of love if there's nothing to love? Think about that. So God begins to create. It creates his child. It creates worlds. It creates planets, stars, systems, plants. It creates all these amazing things. And then what happens? Animals don't do this. Plants don't do this. We start thinking we're better than the other human, and then we begin to get greedy and ego gets involved, and all of a sudden I got to take it from you. I got to have more. I don't care about you. And we start polluting and hurting and allowing starvation and allowing physical abuse and allowing people to move into positions of powers. And what do? We send them money so that they can take us to war and kill a whole bunch of people. And we call that normal. But once you go down this path, you begin to see that's insane. We've been giving power to others to do things that we say we wouldn't do, but if we're funding it, we're doing it. If we're not standing up for something that is loving and peaceful, we're standing up for that which is not. And it's not that we have to go out there and stop the wars and go stop the government, is that we need to know who we are so that we can access the power of creation consciously. Because if you make the decision to use your thoughts to decide that this world should be a world of love and joy and peace, it will be so. It must be so. But you have to accept that you are the creator of this reality. And when people who believe that come together, there is, two or more are gathered, there is infinite power. So that previous chapter was all about understanding who we are as God created us. And then last week in the episode 197, we looked at in section 7, creating versus self-image. And this go back to last week's chapter, and you'll be able to episode on my YouTube channel 197. And I went into that in a lot of detail. I'm not going to do that this time because I need to get to the other paragraphs that all go together, at least as many as we can get through today. So in paragraph 1, it says that every system of thought must have a starting point. And I explain what that means, why we need to understand the starting point. Somebody made it up. That's the starting point. Everything about the Catholic Church has a starting point. Go back to the year 365 after death, AD, and you will see that Emperor Constantine started it. So if you're accepting, oh yeah, like I did when I was a child, oh, I'm Catholic and Catholic, that's the way that it is, and God of the Catholic Church is it. You're not using the power of your mind to question these things. You've got to be willing to be curious. That's why I start everything with curiosity. You've got to be willing to question everything. And we got in trouble when we were little and we were questioning things. Stop asking so many questions, my mom used to say to me. And I did it to my children too. I've already answered that question. Why do you keep asking? And then eventually they go to school, and in school they are told, don't you question authority. Don't you question what I'm telling you. Not only do you not question it, but you're going to memorize it and you're going to regurgitate it. And then if you don't regurgitate it the way that I told you it needed to be, you're not going to pass this grade. You're going to have to repeat, or you're not going to get a diploma. So we are basically shut down from staying curious. And then we become righteous with misinformation. No wonder the world has been such a mess. So every thought system has a starting point. It begins with either making or creating, and this is crucial in A Course in Miracles. You learn to make things or you learn to create. That is where it all starts. We started when God created us. The world of insanity started when we began to make it our reality. We participated in it. So that difference is glaringly important for us to understand. The resemblance between making and creating lies in their power as foundations, meaning if you're making a mess out of the world, you're using your creative powers to fuel your ability to make a mess. If you're making things that are to hurt people, making donations to groups that support this side versus the other one, if you are participating in making yourself a Democrat or a Republican, uh, pro Black Lives Matter versus against that, you are making a choice. And that's what you have to understand is you're making a choice. That's what the ego does. I'm choosing to participate in something that I believe is true according to my belief system that is on the foundation of incredible power. So we have to recognize that both are cornerstones for systems of belief. Which one lives? If you believe that your party, your football team, your whatever political affiliation, religious affiliation, that is the right one, you will not stop at anything to make, again, making versus creating, to make your opponents suffer the consequences. This is why we go to war with those that we oppose, because we're going to make them suffer. So it is a mistake to believe that a thought system based on lies is weak. That is one of the most important lines in there. It is a mistake to think that what you think about is weak, because every thought that you have has power. You were created in the image of God. You were created as a creator, and everything you think about, you will bring about. But we've been bringing it about because we've been making a mess out of this reality. And there's nothing wrong with making a mess. It's okay. It can be a dark place. But the question is, as you wake up, do you want to keep playing in that, you want to get stuck in that mud? Do you want to move up? Do you want to move out? Do you want to expand into a place where you're with those who are co-creating and they're not making divisive lines and putting people on different sides and justifying that, excuse me, it's okay to kill the other side? So we have to make a decision. What side do we want to be on? Because both sides are powerful. Why? Here's the next line. Nothing made by a child of God is without power. And when we are walking around thinking, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough, I'm not special enough, I'm not this enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not whatever enough, we are infusing that belief system with power. And guess what we're doing? We're making that our reality. But when you accept that you're the creator of your reality and you sit and you're conscious of the consequences of your thoughts, and you begin to see how your thoughts are creating everything that you're experiencing, you won't be wasting the power of your thinking to feed and fund that which is low frequency. You won't do that because you will realize, oh, that doesn't feel good. It will not feel good to hurt others. It will not feel good to walk by homeless people and hungry people and not have a knowing that if you have the means to help, you will want to help. Now, let's be very clear. Homeless people, hungry people, those are souls for choosing this human experience in that way. Nobody is where they're not wanting to be from a a higher perspective. But on this third dimensional plane, we are here to be our brother's keepers. We are here to assist wherever possible. Why do you think Jesus spent all his time with the prostitutes and the thieves and the poor people? Why? Because he was helping them remember who they are. He was teaching them to remember who they are. Guess who that was inconvenient for? The Pharisees, the leaders, the rabbis, those who needed those people to think that they were not good enough, because guess what those people did? They made the system work. They could be sent to jail, they could pay a fine, they could, work really hard and be taxed because they didn't know who they were. And Jesus was trying to remind them who they were so that they could lift up, rise up, and stand as the holy beings that they are. And when you stand up and you own the truth of who you are, you will not be subjected to somebody else being your authority. And when you claim the truth of who you are, you will not participate in making somebody less than you. So what's going to happen? We got all these people building a new system and all these people who think that they're the authority of the old system. Well, these people are not going to put up with these people telling them what to do, because these people are going to know the truth of who they are. And that's a beautiful thing, because when you accept the truth of who you are, you will say, hey, no, let's talk, let's co-create, let's make a deal. But you're not going to tell me what to do. Why? Because I only listen to the voice for God. So, paragraph number 2. And again, we may not be able to get to too many paragraphs, but this is what we really need to focus on. This is the guidance that I'm getting, that we need to transmit this information so people can really begin to accept who we are and stop making a mess out of your life experience by participating in low frequencies. And by the way, there is nothing wrong with that. If you want to choose to believe that you need somebody else telling you what to do, that you need the government and the medical establishment and the education system and religious systems telling you what to do, that's okay, because you're making the choice to have that experience. Why? Because everything is a lesson God would have us learn. We have to be where we are to get the lessons. But if you got the lesson, you're not going to be there. Nobody that graduates, at least I don't know of anybody, and nobody that graduates from high school goes to spend their life in elementary school going back to first grade every day, because it's totally different things. Now you may go back as a teacher, but you're not going to be playing with the first graders and participating in that, thinking that that is your reality. All right, paragraph number 2. You cannot resolve the authority problem by depreciating the power of your mind. You cannot resolve the problem. You cannot align with God if you are depreciating the power of your mind, if you are not understanding how powerful your mind is, if you don't accept that your thought creates your reality. That means you've got to accept 100% responsibility for everything that you're experiencing, because your thoughts, your beliefs put you there. So there is no way to align with what God wants you to know as your truth if you don't believe that your thoughts are powerful. This is not going to work. To do so is to deceive yourself. And this will hurt you because you really understand the strength of the mind. You do. Internally, there is a place within you that knows how powerful your thoughts are. You keep thinking you're not good enough, you're not capable, you're not smart enough. You're going to keep getting evidence of that, because that's what you are giving your power to. You believe, no, I'm excited. I love learning. I love expanding. I can do this. It's fun. Trying something new, it's fun. A lot of people don't want to try something new because their experience in school was miserable. One of the typical things that I have found over all my years of coaching is we typically will have to go back to first or second or third grade. Something happened. There was a teacher who told us you were not good enough, you were not smart enough, you were not creative enough, and that affected our ideas of ourselves. And that became something that for the rest of our lives, we didn't want to speak in public, or we didn't want to show anybody our drawings, or we didn't want to be asked to recite something from the Constitution because we were embarrassed that we didn't know it. So we are conditioned to believe that we're not smart enough, that we're not capable enough. How can you not be smart and capable enough if you are made in the image of the authority of creation itself? You got to start really seeing if God created you as a creator to create, and you are believing that you're not good enough, you're going to create experiences that will validate for you how powerful you are, and you won't be good enough. You won't get the job. You won't get the promotion. You won't get things done. You won't write that book. You won't do it. You will block yourself at every turn by saying, no, I can't do this. I can't do this. Those are blocks. Those are blocks to the awareness of the presence of the creative power that is your natural inheritance. These things go together so perfectly, but the mind has to be trained to see things logically, to, to see things in a sane way instead of the insane way that we have been conditioned to look at things. Sentence 3 says, you also realize that you cannot weaken it. You cannot weaken your power any more than you can weaken God. Because if we can make our power less than, then God is not as powerful as God is. Then God is not the source of everything. And if God's not the source of anything, we're in big trouble. If love is not the source of everything, we are, and it's up to us to decide what the source is, we are in big trouble. And that's what the ego is all about. That's what the third dimension is all about. That is what creates the ego's world, is I think I know everything. I'm in charge. I know better than God. And guess what? When I think I know better than God and I have power over you, I have power over you because I was given the power to create. And if I believe that I deserve more money than you, guess what? I'm going to move into those positions of power and be the CEO. Pharma right now, not all of it, but most of it. Those CEOs get millions and millions of dollars. They're paid millions of dollars because they believe that they deserve money. And how do they get their money? By giving you pills. Why do you have to take pills? Because you're going to be sick. If they give you the cure, then they don't make the money. And if they believe that they should have more money, if they believe that they have more power over you, when you take that pill, when you agree that you need to be, oh, for the rest of my life, I'm going to have to take these, whatever those pills are, you are saying yes to them. Yes, you're powerful. Here, take my money. Take my money. And do you question the power of your own body to heal? No, because your mind is not trained to believe that you have that power. Why? Because when you were little, somebody told you, who do you think you are? Of course, you're not powerful. We're going to pray for miracles out there, but you're a sinner. You're not going to get miracles. You're going to go to hell. You can't be that great. So we have to unravel so many lies that we have been told. But all of those lies have power. Why? Because you infuse them with the power that you were given as the child of God that you are. Everything that you think about, you bring about. Do you know the hardest thing? And not really hard because when as a coach for all of these years, it used to be the hardest thing because I used to have to work so hard to get people to be open to the idea that their thoughts created their reality because people argue for their limitations. I've had so many people and people who think that they're so advanced on their spiritual journey want to argue for, no, it can't be fun and easy. No, it can't be. I can't be that powerful. I can't stop feeling bad about myself. I can't stop being a victim. No, you can't because you don't want to. And that's what is so difficult to understand is that everything that we are saying is our truth is because that's the truth we want to experience. And that's why the mind has to be trained into realizing that we can choose a different experience. But to have a different experience, you have to have the beliefs that make it so. It's just not going to pop out there. This new earth that we're co-creating, the happy dream that we're co-creating is only being co-created by people who saw what they participated in the dream of insanity of the ego, and they're training their mind thinking differently, and then we come together, we are drawn together vibrationally with communities that say, yeah, we're going to do it differently. Absolutely amazing. Sentence number 4: the devil is a frightening concept because he seems to be extremely powerful and extremely active. This whole story about the devil, that I grew up with that. You know, you grew up in Catholic, there's God and there is a devil, and the devil made you do it. Do you know that there is no such thing as a devil? There really isn't. If you study the course, you come to the place of realizing that devil is nothing more than ego. Ego is a thought to block God. Devil, as we know it, the falling angel. Why? Because we're all children of God, and we are all created at a very high frequency. And what do? We fall into the low frequency. We descend through the idea of separation. So when we all realize, wait a second, this is all made up, of course, we're all going to have a good laugh because it's a freaking divine comedy. But while you're in it, it's very painful because you really think that there's a devil coming after you, that bad things happen to you. Well, if you believe in the devil, if you believe bad things happen to you, you're going to be in that frequency. And guess what? You will have bad things happen to you. And the devil is not necessarily going to have horns. The devil may very well wear a suit and be the CEO of a company that keeps you sick, or be the president of a country that keeps you at war, keeps you a slave working, paying the taxes so they can continue to go to war. Because to go to war, you need equipment. Who is getting the profits of that equipment? When you begin to think for yourself, pull out of the matrix and begin to question the repercussions. This belief leads to this belief, leads to this belief, and you begin to take that whole Jenga tower apart, you will see that it's constructed by beliefs that hold us in enslavement to a thought system that says we're not who we are as God created us. We have to end that insanity. But you can't end it until you decide you want to end it. This is why it requires a little willingness to get curious. And I've posted things here when I shared my opinion about Trump, because I see him vibrationally as somebody who is helping to tear down the old. He doesn't have to build a new. That's not his job. He has to help tear down the old. He has to help expose the old. Is that going to be uncomfortable? Yeah, for the people who rely on that. But it's not going to affect the people who that's not our reality. But it has to crumble. So guess what? I had a lot of people. And when I say a lot of people, a dozen people who left me messages. How could you be a spiritual teacher and support Trump? They all had their judgments against Trump. Not one of them said to me, I want to question my beliefs. Can we sit down and talk about this? Nope. It was, I'm going to unfriend you. I'm going to leave your channel. I'm not going to follow you. Okay, because you don't want to open up your eyes and you want to be righteous about how wrong Trump is, which keeps you arrogant in that place of righteousness. And in that arrogance, you remain ignorant because you can't expand your awareness about what's going on. The big picture, you can't see it because you got blinders, and you need to be right about that. Everybody who needs to be right about the limitations is not going to be able to cross the bridge to unlimited potential. It's not possible because they're using that power to create limitation. They're not using the power to move into unlimited experiences. And to move into unlimited experiences, you've got to do things differently. If you're going to do them the same, you stay in the 3D density. I mean, you've got to put two and two together at some point. Oh my gosh. At some point, I really truly laugh at the insanity of powerful beings using the power of their mind to believe things that keep them in bondage. But I have compassion. I was one of those people. I was living in that story that I was a slave, that I had to work hard, that I had to do things to climb the ladder, that I had to become something. I lived that lie. I know how seductive it is to get people to think highly of me, to you know, I needed their validation, and I did everything to avoid them judging me. I spent so much time giving my power away to external authorities. I didn't know what I was doing because I didn't know what I didn't know. That's why God forgives us. Jesus forgives us. We don't know what the heck we're doing. But when you get curious and you begin to question, you will see, holy fuck, that's what I've been giving my creative powers to. Yes, but God's not going to punish you because God created you to create. And if you want to create that, God loves you without any judgment. That's what's so beautiful about understanding unconditional love. The next sentence says, and this is talking about the devil, he is perceived as a force in combat with God, battling him for possessions of his creation. The devil deceives by lies. What else deceives by lies? The ego, because you're believing that somebody else has authority over you. So you're being deceived by your own lies. And it builds kingdoms in which everything is in direct opposition to God. Medical system as we know it, allopathic system, it's all about pharmaceutical products, all derivatives of petroleum. And we have bought into that. You see, want to see how crazy we are? Talk about the devil. That all of these things that are synthetic are supposed to help us heal, but yet all of the natural plants, everything that God gave us, somehow that is not. Do you see how insane that is? That something that is natural is not going to help you, but something that comes from a bottle that was manufactured from petroleum is somehow supposed to help you? Well, we're watching. That whole story is crumbling. Thank you, COVID, for helping open the eyes of so many people. And so many people who spiritual heads of companies, corporations, media, who told you, some presidents, authorities told you, oh no, you got to go take that thing and put it in your arm because that's what's safe and effective. And now we're realizing, oh, wait a second, it wasn't. It wasn't. But how did so many people buy into that? Why? Because the devil is very seductive. It tells us lies and it instills fear. Because if you try to be healthy on your own, devil tells you, no, you can't be healthy without all these pills. We've been indoctrinated. We've been taught to fear and to listen to authority. Until you understand that the authority that knows what is best for you is inside of you, and you begin to say, that's okay. You can tell me I got to take that, but I'm not going to take it. And you're willing to deal with whatever consequence come. There are going to be people who are going to be tested. Do you really believe in your truth that God is within you? Well, some people may get in trouble with external authorities for speaking the truth. We have watched that. How many people haven't been jailed for speaking the truth, haven't been deplatformed or called conspiracy theorists, but they were speaking the truth. Why? Because the ego does not want you. The ego, the devil, the false authorities, you can give them all the labels you want. It's anything that opposes truth, does not want truth to be told. That is their greatest fear, is that people know the truth. Then their next greatest fear is that people will act on the truth, that people will stand with the truth for the truth. Because when you decide, give me liberty or give me death, because you know death is not real, so you want to get rid of this body, that's okay. That's what Jesus taught us on the cross. He was not going to bow down to the authorities and begin to say, oh, yes, Pharisees and Roman emperor, whatever, Pontius Pilate, yes, I'll bow down. Please don't kill me. He was like, you know what? I'm not a body. I am free, for I am still as God created me. You can put me on the cross. As a matter of fact, put me on the cross because I know that for thousands of years, people will be talking about how I resurrected. And that's why he's free. That's why Jesus can still communicate with us because we feel that high vibing consciousness inside of us. Every single one of us has that Christ consciousness, but we have to tap into that. And the only way we can tap into that is we have to decide to not listen to the voice for lies. So then it goes on to say, yet he attracts men, the ego, rather than repels them, and they are willing to sell him their souls in return for gifts of no real worth. This makes absolutely no sense. But yet that's what we do. With the Diddy trials, this is why I like to use current events to see what's going on. The Diddy trials, more and more and more, we're hearing about celebrities who participated in these freak off parties and all of these things that were done in secret and quiet and nobody could talk about it. But they participated in those things because that's how they were going to get the record contract. That's how they were going to get the part in the movie. That's how they were going to get the promotion. That's how they were going to get the job. That's how they were going to get to be, the celebrity's assistant or the celebrity's boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever. When you don't know who you are so easily swayed into selling your soul. And you will always sell your soul for what you believe an authority knows that you don't know. And that is one of the greatest lies, the greatest deceptions that we have participated in, that anybody out there knows better than you. And we become chasers of stuff, chasers of titles, chasers of money, chasers of love, looking for it in all the wrong places because we're not grounded in knowing, no, it's in here. God is in here. If my little 2-year-old could have said to me, Mommy, you can believe that Lucy is not real, but I know Lucy is real, she would have taught me something. But what did she do? She wanted to please Mommy because I taught her how to do that. I taught her, Mommy will be happy if you clean your room. Mommy will be happy. I told her that my happiness depended on her giving up her freedoms. At a very young age, I learned that too from my grandparents, my mother, my father, and they didn't realize what they were doing. Why? Because we're crazy. We don't know what we're doing. We don't know what we don't know. And then, yet we pass that down from generation to generation. That's why when we begin to wake up, we've got to heal generation 7 back so that 7 forward don't get imprinted with those same beliefs that we hand down that are powerful and create people's realities because they make them true for them. So I'm not going to get at this time into the next paragraph, but I want to just focus right now on the importance of understanding your thoughts are powerful because your ability to think, your ability to imagine, your ability to hold a thought is all of that happens in consciousness. Think of consciousness as the substance that only has one answer, and that answer is yes. God created us to create. It did not put obstacles in what we can and cannot create, except for one thing. And it tells us that there's only one difference between us and God. God created us, we can't create God. So we have been given power to create anything we want. And we have collectively created a third dimensional world where suffering and lack and limitation and haves and have nots are okay. If you're done with that low vibing game, then you have to choose to look at all the thoughts that created that game, that made that game possible, retrieve your power back from those thoughts. And the only way to do that is question them. You got to get curious about another way. You got to, what's the opposite to this thought? I'm not smart enough. What's the opposite to that? I am smart enough. Play inside of that. Because if you say you are smart enough, you are capable, you can handle technology, it will become your reality because you will infuse it with the power of creation that God gave you. But if you say, well, I'm not good at this, I'm not good at that, well, you're right. You're right about that too, because we have to get the importance of how powerful we are. And the devil and the ego, it's the same thing. It says here, the devil deceives by lies. So anything that you are believing that keeps you from experiencing the peace that passes all understanding is because you're choosing to believe a lie. And nobody can make you not choose to believe a lie. You have to decide to choose not to believe that lie. People can force your body to be in slavery. They can put you in a jail. They can confine you. They can tie you up. They can even cut your arms and your legs so you can't go anywhere. They can do that, but they cannot confine your mind without your participation. You have to give permission for your mind to be enslaved by choosing to believe things that are not true. And yet that proves how powerful you are because in your choosing to not believe that you can do something, you are saying yes because that's the only answer that consciousness has to the thing that you say you prefer not to have an experience with. And the only thing that keeps you doing the thing that you don't want, expecting a different result, is because you're insane. And the reason you're insane is because you are being ignorant of the truth by being arrogant about being right about what is not true. Do you see how crazy this can get? This is not for the faint of heart. There has to be not only a willingness to be curious, but there has to be a sense of humor to see the insanity that we have been operating in. And I'm so grateful that you participated in today's episode 198. I got all excited a couple of episodes back and I thought it was episode 200, but I was mistaken. I'm not going to be arrogant about my errors. I was wrong. And we're just at episode now 198 is what this one is going to be. And for all the other episodes, go to my YouTube channel, Laina Orlando, and you'll find them there. And again, I'll give one more invitation to the awarenessacademy.com/membership. At the very least, give yourself the free membership because you're going to be inside of a conversation that is going to be talking about all kinds of things that the egoic world out there doesn't want you to know about. It's a fun ride, and it's just getting started. So give it time. Give us a couple of weeks to really get this process going. I'm still learning, because I'm open to learning all kinds of things about new technologies, new ways of staying connected and being in a space that is designed to hold sacred the truth of our inheritance, which is that we are powerful beyond measure, holy, magnificent, innocent, and perfect. I know that that's the truth about me, and I see you as that being the truth about you. Now, whether you accept it or not is up to you. I have no power over your mind, but I have power over my mind, and I only want to believe what is actually true. I love you all so much. If anybody has something you want to share, by all means, unmute yourself. Otherwise, I will see you guys next week, or I'll see you in the academy. Oh, thanks for the kisses.
Bye, Laina. Thank you.
Bye.
See you tomorrow.
See you later. Bye bye.
Bye.
See you in a little bit.
Bye bye.